Christmas has come early to Ground Control RC. I'm so excited to have this plane. Now, I've been watching Aero's RC for a while with the planes that they're putting out. The first one that I came across, because I didn't even know anything about Aero's RC, was the Viper 50mm EDF jet. This is the first year that I have had the opportunity to fly an EDF jet, and so I have 2 EDF jets that I have flown so far. So I was inundated with stuff. I didn't think I was going to have time. You know, if I pulled the trigger on the Viper 50mm EDF jet, and I finally got halfway caught up on stuff, things have been slowed in the pipeline because of all the supply chain issues here in the U.S. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on the Aero's Viper, and while I was looking around at other planes that they were putting out, I came across the T-33, which was on pre-order. Now I've never pre-ordered anything, and they said that the jet was supposed to be available on October 15th. So I think I ordered the Viper on the 13th. And I kept thinking about this T-33 and thinking about it, and I thought, well, I'm sure I won't get it until after the first of the year, but it's a brand new jet. Maybe I'll be one of the first ones that will be able to review it. So the next day I went ahead and pulled the trigger on this T-33, and I've always loved the look of the T-33, and the profiling in the air is just awesome. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and then a couple days later, lo and behold, I got a notification from Hobby Zone where I ordered this, and they had stated that the T-33 order was complete, and I thought, they've made a mistake. I think what they're talking about is the Viper order. Somebody has referenced the wrong order because the Vipers were in stock. So I'm sure it's the Viper that's coming and not the T-33. And then the next day, I got notification that the Viper order had completed. So I thought, holy crap, the T-33 actually arrived on the 15th of October and they have already shipped it out. So I received both of these planes one after the other. The Viper actually got here first, and then the next day I received the T-33. So Hobby Zone is on the ball. It's the first time I've ordered from them, and I will definitely be ordering from them again. But and there will be links in the show notes to the T-33 and also the Viper. But I wanted to review this one first because this is new in the wild, and the Viper has been out for a while. So, but I didn't have any receivers at the time either. I was completely out of receivers to use. So I went to Buddy RC, another company that is always on the ball and ships very quickly. So I ordered another 6-pack of the Lemon RX 6-channel receivers. They're very lightweight receivers and have diversity antennas on them. And I ordered a 6-pack of those earlier this year, and they've all performed very well, and of course I've already used all of them. So I ordered another 6-pack, and lo and behold, those showed up, I think the same day as the T-33 showed up. So I was up late last night getting this ready to go for its initial launch. So I want to give you guys some information on this jet, and I'm so happy that I got it so quickly, but I probably won't be able to put it in the air until tomorrow if the wind forecast holds out. We have had a lot of wind lately, so there have been days where I've gone out to go fly and the actual wind speed was so far off the forecast wind, I just had to turn around and come home. You saw the results of me not doing that once. Anyway, let me give you the specs, and I'll give you the weight and the testing that I've done with it so far in-house. So this also came with a gyro system, and I didn't realize that. You know, they talked about the gyro for the T-33, but I thought that came as optional equipment. I didn't think the plug-and-fly version actually came with the gyro installed, but it did. The Viper didn't come with one. The Viper just used, I'm just going to be putting a standard receiver in it, but this one actually came with the gyro, a 3-mode gyro. So they call it their vector stabilization system. And so it has one mode that's basically a full safe mode. So if you really are out of whack or you lose orientation or something on it, you can put it in safe mode and it's supposed to level it out. And then they have another mode that's called dynamic mode, where the stabilization only works against wind gusts and stuff like that. So if the aircraft makes a change in attitude and there's no input on the stick that would cause that, then the gyro system will counteract it. Okay, so that's the second mode. And then the third mode, thankfully, it has a direct mode, which is full manual mode. So I love the fact that they have 3 modes on this jet. I'm really kind of disappointed that more companies don't do that. I think that's the way to set up your gyro system, you know, safe mode, stabilization mode, full manual mode. Then then it's attractive to a larger audience at the same time. You know, I don't think I would buy a plane that didn't have a manual mode in the gyro, or else I would have to remove the gyro and put a standard receiver in it. But it has a 31.5 inch wingspan, 800.5 millimeter. The length is 29.5 inches or 750 millimeters. The specified CG is 60 to 70 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing, where the leading edge of the wing meets the fuselage, right here. So I have mine set at 65 millimeters back from that point. I have the recommended LiPo is a 3S 1300 milliamp hour 30C LiPo, which I have a few of those. And they weigh 106 grams. Mine weigh 106 grams. So I have to put my LiPo all the way forward as far as I can get it to get a neutral balance at 65 millimeters on the CG. So just to be in the ballpark, I'm going with the mid-range on that. Now for the, they have a separate sheet in the user manual that gives you information on the gyro system. But the gyro system, you know, it has servo connectors for the throttle, the aileron, the elevator, no rudder of course on this, so it doesn't have that. And then it has a cable for an S-bus or PPM receiver, or as a mode cable. So on a standard receiver, a PWM receiver, you'll connect that cable to channel 5 on your receiver, and that worked fine. There's an LED status light on the gyro board that tells you what mode it's in. I've tested all that. I've tested my failsafe. Everything is working as it should. So I set my gyro up on my 3-position switch. I think it's SG on my RadioMaster TX16S. The only gripe that I have about their gyro system is they've set the gyro system up so no matter how you configure it, the center position of the switch is for direct mode or full manual mode. I like my gyros to be set up in progression. So I would have liked the forward position on the switch to be safe mode, the middle position on the switch to be the dynamic mode or the stabilization mode, and the back position of the switch of 3-position switch to be direct mode or full manual mode. I don't want to switch from gyro mode to full manual mode to stabilization mode. I would rather go from fully stabilized, you know, safe mode to stabilized mode to manual mode. So I wish they had hardwired that into the gyro. The assembly was pretty easy, not as easy as it was on the Viper. The only thing that you have to do, and I love the fact that the wing is one section, it bolts onto the bottom of the fuselage. The vertical stabilizer is molded, it's already part of the airframe. The horizontal stabilizer you have to glue in, and part of the exhaust outlet is attached to the horizontal stabilizer, so that also forms the top of your circle back here for your thrust. The wing pods have to be glued on, so that wasn't a problem. But I did have a problem attaching the wing to the fuselage. So the problem that I had with getting the wing attached to the fuselage is you have, 4 screw holes here to attach the main wing to the fuselage. Now on the Viper, the receivers that are on the fuselage have a raised section to them that these sections will fit over top of, so that you have everything's aligned before you ever put the screw in. Well, they didn't do that with this. There was no raised race to line the holes up, and the holes are fairly small and the screws are fairly small. So why they deviated from that, I have no idea. But on 2 of the 4 holes that I had on here, I had a heck of a time getting the screws into the proper position, because it looked like the plastic receivers on the wing weren't quite molded in straight. They had a little bit of an angle to them. So I had to actually force the wing over to get those screws into those holes. So I don't understand why they deviated from the way they did it on the Viper. That made it much easier. So it says in the documentation, it says build time 15 minutes. Well, it was longer than that for me, because it took me about 15 minutes to get the main wing attached. So I wasn't really happy with that as far as the assembly went. I mean, I got it done, but it should have been a lot easier than that. So, and I have one more complaint about the gyro. The gyro, the way you tell what mode the gyro is in is it has a red LED light. Okay, so in one mode you get a flash that's a long flash, and then in another mode it's solid, and then the next mode it flashes a little bit faster than the other mode that flashes, and so you kind of have to watch the LED to see how fast it's going to flash, or if it's going to stay solid, in order to see what mode it's in. What I would have liked to have seen is just, in fully stabilized mode, the LED is green. In safe mode and stabilized mode, it's maybe amber or yellow, and then in the full manual mode, it's red. I mean, I don't know if that would be any more difficult than programming the flashing LEDs on the board, but it would certainly make it a lot faster and a lot easier to tell what mode you were in if the LED just changed colors, rather than flashing. And I know that's getting a little picky, but I like to keep things as simple as possible. I'm a simple guy, I like simple things, and so I would just like to see it change color and just be done with it. Okay, so I knew that after setting the F-86 Saberjet up with a 3S Plus power system, I was going to have other candidates for that, right? And I do, and I think this one and I think the Viper, since they have the exact same power system, I think both these are going to be excellent candidates for a 3S Plus power system. If you guys watch the flights of the F-86 Saberjet with just a 3S LiPo on it, after I cut the additional air inlet holes in it, I mean, you can see how it flew and what kind of power it had. And then if you look at it now with the 3S Plus power system, it's a little rocket ship. So yeah, these are going to be, this and the Viper are going to be rocket ships. Maybe not on 3S. We'll see how much power they have on 3S. But on a 3S Plus power system, these are going to be little rocket ships. Guarantee it. Okay, so the receiver I have in this is a Lemon RX 6-channel receiver. It's a very lightweight receiver. It's not a boxed receiver. It just has, a little glued plastic case that goes over the top of it. And I would say that receiver plus the anti-vibration pad I've got on the bottom of it, plus the Velcro on the receiver and the Velcro pad in the fuselage to hold the receiver in place, it's probably about 8 grams. The weight of my plane with the receiver, without the LiPo, was 388.4 grams. Okay, the weight of the plane with my Turnigy 3S 1300 mAh 30C LiPo that weighs 106 grams was 494.4 grams. They have a recommended flying weight of 495. So with my receiver and my LiPo, I was, what, 0.64 grams under the recommended weight, pretty much at the recommended weight. As you know, in the terrain that I have to land in, I have to have some type of landing system on these planes. I prefer to put landing skids on them because the landing skids tend to be a lot more robust than landing gear. Unfortunately, with this plane, with the material that I have to use to build my skids out of, which have worked very well on several planes, I just could not get this thing off the ground for my comfort level. You know, I mean, there was going to be very little space between the wing pods and the ground, and very little space between the servo protectors and the ground, and all it would take would be one rock or one divot to damage the plane. So I ended up having to fabricate landing gear for it. I've never fabricated landing gear before. I don't know how robust these are going to be. I think that if I was landing on a smooth surface, like asphalt or concrete, I think that this landing gear would work just fine. I don't know how they're going to work out where I land, where it's dirt, sand, gravel, it's hard packed. There's ridges and bumps and divots and ruts and rocks. So I don't know how well those are going to handle. It may be one landing and done, and then I may have to come up with a different solution. But I won't know until I make my first landing, assuming that the launch goes as planned. But that added, the weight of the landing gear was 14.4 grams. I kept them as light as I possibly could. And hopefully they will be robust enough at that weight. But 14.4 grams. So that puts my all-up weight at 508.8 grams, which is 13.8 grams over the recommended flying weight of 495 grams. So what is that, an increase of about 2-3% on the total weight of the plane? It ought to be able to handle that, don't you think? So we will see. I put it on a load meter, tested on a fully charged 3S LiPo, and at full throttle it was pulling 22.8 amps, so you have plenty of headroom on that 30 amp speed controller. I was really surprised that it was only pulling 22.8 amps. But this is an 11 blade fan that they have on here. At 50% throttle, I was even more astonished. It was only pulling 6.2 amps. Of course, I don't know how much thrust that's producing at those throttle levels. But I went ahead and I tested it for a 3S Plus power system. I can limit the top end of the throttle at 80%, and 100% throttle, it's right at 30 amps. At 50% throttle, it's only at 8 amps. Okay, so I think at 80% throttle range on a 4S LiPo, I think this plane's going to be a little rocket. Now, when I take it out for the first time, for the maiden launch, if everything goes well, I'm just going to fly it on the 3S LiPos. And if everything goes well, then the next time I take it out, I'm going to take it out with the 3S Plus power system. I've got some larger 4S LiPos that are supposed to have 1300 milliamp hour 4S LiPos that are supposed to be here, I think, on Thursday of this coming week. So I would like to hold off on that until I get those brand spanking new LiPos in and test it out on the 3S Plus power system, so I don't have to cut my flight timer back so much. And this plane has a full line of spare parts. So the next time that you see this plane will be for the maiden launch. So stay tuned. I cannot wait to get this in the air. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.